I'm Gemma. I'm founder of Culture Gem, and I'm a cyber behaviour and culture consultant. And joining me today is Gemma. Do you want to provide a little intro into who you are and where you've come from?
Will do. So my name is also Gemma with a G, not a J. I'm the founder or co-founder of Cyberis. So we're a cybersecurity consultancy, and my background is in penetration testing, red teaming, basically offensive security. So yeah, trying to break things, basically, is what I do for a living.
What I find really interesting is whenever I mention your name, people go, "Oh my God, Gemma, she is the world's best pen tester. She is the most skilled person in the world." And I love that because I never hear someone's the best at something very often from other people. You know, I hear it, I guess the industry we're in, there's a lot of chest beating and I'm the best and I've been doing this for X amount of years. But anytime I talk to anybody about you, they say Gemma is the best.
That's really embarrassing for me. That's really nice to hear. I don't know how to react to that because I'm not very good with compliments, but I am. I'm not, there's no false modesty. I know I'm very good at pen testing. I don't do as much pen testing as I used to do, because mostly what I do these days is run red teams. But it is fair to say that penetration testing has been a bit of an obsession for me. And I've absolutely loved doing it as a career the whole time I've been doing it, which is about 20 years now. So a
Wow.
while. And it's not something I got into deliberately. It's just something I fell into, and I found the right place for me.
Mm.
It is a really wonderful industry to be in if, like me, you are incurably curious and obsessed with detail and obsessed with things being weird and loving explaining things to people. I'm autistic. I have a tendency to info dump. If you're doing a pen test, your info dump, when you're explaining all the details to somebody about their system and their vulnerabilities and everything like that, and they're understanding it and they're taking all the info in, that is a beautiful thing to do. Is that communication of all the information that somebody needs in a way that they understand and that is accessible to them. That's a real dopamine rush.
Mm. I was having a conversation a couple of episodes ago with Jim Newman, who's the CISO of a company called Capco, and we were talking about finding your place in the world and how fantastic it is when you find your place. So he has ADHD, and so he loves the world of incidents. I also thrive in chaos and high stress environments, and so I found my place in the world based on how I thrive. And I think that's something that doesn't happen often enough, is we have to kind of fit into the world as opposed to find where we belong.
Yeah, so I'm ADHD. I have a diagnosis of that. Well, I'm just collecting all the diagnoses now. I only
Mhm.
got diagnosed when I was 40. I had no idea. So I'm 41 now. I've lived with that knowledge for about a year and a bit.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that I was autistic, and it never crossed my mind. It was just me. But I was kind of aware that I'd found a bunch of people that got me. They got me. They get me.
Mm.
I've had this career working with loads of people that I am sure pen testing generally as an industry is pretty neurodivergent. There's a lot of people that think slightly differently or look at things slightly differently or see patterns that other people don't see. And I think generally, if you work in the industry long enough, you meet so many people who look at things slightly differently that it just doesn't phase you when you're talking to someone and they come at something from a completely weird angle, or they like to do things in a particular way because that's the way that they think is the best way to do it, and you're like, okay, if it gets the job done, let's just do it. And yeah,
Mm.
I was really, really lucky to find a place where it just fitted and it just worked, because I've had a really, really successful career in this industry. Nothing about my brain or my gender that gets brought up a lot because there aren't many women. Nothing about that has
Yeah.
impacted me at all. I've just found my place and I found my people and I found the thing that I really like doing, that I'm really good at doing. And I've been able to obsess about that for 20 years whilst, doing all the grown up normal things like, keeping a job and having a mortgage and having marriage and all the normal grown up things that you do
Mm.
without really thinking about any of the pathology of what's going on in my brain or worrying about it.
Mm.
So yeah, finding your place is a really powerful thing, and I really feel I know there's a lot of people that haven't found their place, and there's a lot of people that feel like they will never find their place, and that does make me, it makes me really sad, and it makes me worry for the future of a lot of people. I have my best friend is also autistic, turns out. She also didn't get diagnosed until she was late 30s. Um, and she got diagnosed because her son is autistic.
Mhm.
And sometimes I fear for her son that maybe he won't find his place. Like, I really hope he will, because he's brilliant in every respect. And you keep thinking, oh, maybe he won't find his place, and that's a really big fear for me because he has limitless potential.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't find the right place, will he ever be able to reach that potential, or will he just be forced into a box that he doesn't fit in by other
Yeah.
people's expectations?
Mm. Absolutely. Now you touched on something that I like you don't really like to talk about, is the oh, you're a woman in cyber thing. And I you
Hello,
probably.
fellow woman in cyber. Nice to meet you. Yeah,
Hello. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. And I probably, like you, get asked a lot of questions. Events, can you come and speak at something? Can you give comment on something about what it's like, and how we can fix this industry? And I'm
Oh, that
really
drives me
conflicted.
crazy.
I feel so conflicted about that because cyber's my place, right? And I
Yeah.
found my people in cyber, and to go on any kind of record and say, oh, well, it's really difficult to be a woman. I've not experienced that. So I find that really challenging to then have to give some sort of comment or answer to that when everyone in cyber opened their arms and said, yeah, come and work with us, isn't it fun? And I found my people. I've made excellent friends in this industry. I found where I belong in the world, and I didn't have that before. So I know I said I'm not going to address the women side of things, but actually you brought it up, and so let's discuss.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel very conflicted in exactly the same way. So one of the things that really annoys me is, I say annoys me, it's an obvious question to ask at any of these things. So what can we do to get more women into cyber? But
Mm.
the problem is, you're these events, they're in a bubble. So the people that you're asking are the minority. You're asking the women, what are you going to do to get more women into cybersecurity? It's like, we're already here.
Yeah.
We're being. That's what we're doing.
Mm.
Why don't you go and ask all the men what they're doing to get more women into cybersecurity? Because they're the majority. They're the
Mm.
ones with the power in this situation. Go talk to them.
Mm.
And the thing is, whenever you have one of these it's actually all the diversity panels, all the diversity events. The thing is that the only people that come to those events are the ones that are already convinced that something needs to be done. You don't reach the people that don't see a problem.
Mm.
And therefore, you don't reach the majority of the people. So you're always in this little bubble where you're talking about, how to make things better for the majority without the majority sort of being in the room helping.
Mhm.
And so the problem's not really, something that you can address in that arena because everyone's already convinced. You're preaching to the choir, and everyone
Mm.
else has left the church.
Yes,
They've all gone home.
absolutely.
Um, as for being a woman generally in this industry, well, I've experienced some unpleasant things in my time,
Mhm.
but they haven't really held me back. They haven't impacted my career. I've not particularly been traumatized by things that have happened to me. Don't get me wrong, I've heard horrible stories from other women in cyber, and
Yeah.
their experiences have been awful, and there's no getting away from the fact that women have had awful experiences in
Mm.
cybersecurity. Women have awful experiences everywhere. We have, a problem as a whole society of women having horrible experiences. Um, but I don't necessarily think that that's a problem with cyber. I think that's a problem with society. And my
Mhm.
experience generally has been, if I'm doing the job properly, and I'm doing the thing that needs to be done with the right skills, and I'm interacting with people professionally and openly, nobody has really noticed or cared that I'm a
Mm.
woman. They're working with me. They know that I'm competent. They know that I'm doing the job. they're competent, they're doing their job, we're working together. It's not been an issue.
Mm. For quite a long time, I didn't have my own face on LinkedIn. I had an avatar, so my face wasn't in the public domain, attached to Gemma from Cyber place.
Yeah.
And part of the reason that I did that was almost a social experiment. It was, I wanted to wander into situations and see how you were going to react to me based on judging the book by its cover. What did you perceive me to be? Then when they realised this face belongs to the Gemma from the Cyber thing, the attitudes changed. So that was an interesting social experiment for me to see how some people would react to me. What I took great pleasure in doing is putting them neatly back into their box when they spoke down to me or, made any kind of comment. But like you say, I've not had any horrific experiences. So this is where I'm conflicted. I'm aware that it happens, but that's not my experience. So I find that a really challenging subject to talk on. But again, like you say, we're effectively sitting in a room together, preaching about stuff, but we're not doing anything out there in the world. I don't know. It's one of those how do you fix it situations.
Well, you can't fix the whole of society. I mean, for whatever reason, a lot of women aren't attracted to the industry. I don't know why that is, because I think it's brilliant. So like you asked me why aren't women attracted to the industry? I'm really attracted to the industry, so I can't tell you why women aren't attracted to the industry. I think it's brilliant. And why don't women stay in the industry? Because a lot of women tend to leave. There's statistics about leaky pipeline and people coming in and then going back out again. And again, this is the thing that I'm obsessed with and wanted to spend my whole life doing because it's so interesting to me. So I don't know why people leave. I can't answer that question either. But there must be data that does answer that question.
Yeah, unfortunately, because I am of the female variety, I get dragged into debates about this way more than I feel comfortable doing, because like I said, I don't really have a personal experience to draw from. And I think the thing that I sometimes go back to is we're not getting people excited at the right age about a career in cyber. And if you consider, I was having a conversation with someone who was like, my daughter, they're excited about things. And I said, when they had a birthday party when they were a child, what did they get? Like, boys get computer games, girls get nail polish, for example. So is it an early conditioning of that's what we do because we're girls, so then we are going to be hairdressers or work in that kind of, or be excited about that kind of beauty world, as opposed to
be caring, be polite.
As opposed to how can I take this apart? No, I think the reason that I get interested in things is probably related to childhood trauma and on the lighter side of childhood trauma. My dad used to cut plugs off of things. So at about 6, I learned to rewire plugs and was like, oh, fixing things. And then got really interested in solving problems, which then I guess has led me to where I am today. But I still was given a Barbie, to play with. On the other side, I got to fix stuff. So
I had my little ponies in a big box of Lego, a huge box of Lego, in fact. I love Lego. Always loved Lego.
Oh, yeah.
I used to,
Well, I think the world knows that I am a Lego fanatic. I have a Lego room. I spend all of my money on Lego.
That is brilliant. Lego is the best thing ever. This is a bit of a digression, from cybersecurity, but yes, Lego is wonderful.
Well, actually,
it's good for building.
I don't know if it is a digression, and people do ask me what is it about Lego, because I'm quite obsessed with it. And I think from my side of things, there isn't a documented process in what I do. There is solve this problem. Here's all the things that are broken. How are we going to fix that from a squishy people side of things? So at the end of the day, when I've done all of the non-scripted work that is how am I going to fix all of these problems and used my brain to come up with solutions to everything, following a process to build a Lego set, I find really therapeutic and calming, because there is a documented process that I'm like, right, there we are. And at the end of it, there's a tangible thing. Whereas quite often in my world, there isn't a tangible thing that I can see. There is a reaction over time.
Yeah, it's a very mindful thing building a Lego set. I'm with you on that. It's very zen.
No, I love it.
You said
As I look over your head, there is a Lego bonsai tree just on the desk over your
awesome.
head. As you say zen, I'm like, oh, there's my zen.
There you go. Exactly what it is. There was a friend of mine had a Lego orchid.
Oh, I have
Now
that.
that's beautiful, just beautiful.
Oh, people are always fiddling with it. It's in my house. They come around and, oh, is that Lego? Wow. Yes. No, I have the entire Lego botanical range, and many other things. Yeah.
Marvelous.
Um,
you said squishy people side of cyber. It's all squishy people. I think it's all computers and stuff like that, but ultimately it all boils down to squishy people. Because what are we doing it for if not for the squishy people?
Indeed. And the love for the squishy people.
Indeed. It's about keeping squishy people safe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you've ever heard me do any kind of public speaking, my final thought is always, let's do it for the nans. And so people all over the country have heard me shout, let's do it for the nans, because I am genuinely passionate about, the people of it all, and how do we make the world cyber safe for them.
Yeah.
So the series is called Cyber Awareness Month with Gemma and Friends. And so I'm going to move on to thoughts, feelings, fears, plans for Cyber Month, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it. Thoughts. There's too many months. That's my thought. It's hard to keep track of all the months. Cyber Awareness Month. It should always be Cyber Awareness Time, but that's too hard. That's really hard for people to keep in mind. So if we go to fears first, my fear always is for individuals and the impact on individuals, and what individuals don't know, and how they don't understand what the threat is to them. They don't understand how to keep themselves safe. And the information that bombards people is really complicated, and it's really hard to implement, and it's really conflicting. So one of the biggest things people do generally, just that ends up shooting themselves in the foot, is sharing passwords for everything. It's like the worst thing you can do. You know that. I know that. Do the nans know that? No, the nans don't know that. And then the advice is, well, get yourself a password manager application. It's like, what is that? How do you use it? I can barely email people. How am I supposed to use a password manager application? And for my mum, the thing I suggested to my mum that she does is that she keeps a physical book by her computer, and she makes a new password and she writes it down in the physical book. But you say that to cybersecurity experts and you'll get them go, no, you can't write the passwords down. You can't write the passwords down. But what's the threat model here? Like, if someone wants my mum's passwords now, they're going to have to break into her house and steal her book. She'll notice that.
Yeah.
She'll be able to do something about the fact that that has happened. People aren't likely to break into my mum's house and steal her password book to get into her accounts. If they're breaking into a house, they're stealing her stuff. Like, she can't use a password manager. She doesn't know how to use a password manager. It's too complicated for her. The notebook is fine. You don't have enterprise grade security on everything. But if you've got unique passwords on everything you need online, and you set up, the little two-factor authentication, so you click and approve or get a text message every time on everything that you can do, you're going to be orders of magnitude safer than if you don't. And those two things are quite simple. But if you overcomplicate it and you just bombard people with conflicting messages and, don't use SMS multi-factor authentication. Like, I know SMS multi-factor authentication is not the best thing in the world. There's ways around it, but it's an order of magnitude better than not having any multi-factor authentication. So it's hugely better than just having a password. It's not brilliant, but it's a huge improvement. And if that's the only thing you can do because you haven't got a smartphone, you haven't got the authenticator app, but you can get a text message, get the text message.
I've lost count of how many times that text message, where that is the only available second authentication factor, has saved me. Yesterday, in fact, my phone went off saying, here's your passcode. And I was like, oh shit, I was going to change my password on that system. But you've saved me. Right? And that it's a hassle, but whew. Now actually I do pay attention to my text, but do I pay attention to my push notifications on different apps and things? Not necessarily. But if someone texts me, then I'm like, oh, this is a demand for my attention. Okay, as opposed to, you know, your lives have been refilled on whatever game it is that you're playing on your phone.
Yeah, exactly. And push notifications, again, it's better than having no multi-factor authentication, but you're right, you know, the push notification thing, people just get too used to just going approve, fine, whatever. It's got its own problems. Like multi-factor authentication definitely doesn't solve everything, but it's better than not having it. And I think there's don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good enough is something that I worry about. We always want everything to be perfect. And a lot of the rhetoric around cybersecurity, it's all, you know, patch everything all the time, you know, change all the authentication models that you've got so that it's always least privilege all the time, without really considering the threat model or the risk or like the viability of doing these things, or how much it's going to cost to do these things. You know, is it actually worth it at the end of the day? You need things to be, you need it to be, you know, worth the squeeze.
Yeah,
to do these things.
On the least privilege side, I'm just going to throw in not necessarily a curveball, but something that really winds me up about least privilege. And what it is least privilege on accessibility controls, where you have to raise, and say you're at work and you need to enable something, browser extension, whatever it is on your machine, and you need to raise an IT request that then has to be approved by your line manager. That has to be queued in the service desk for something you need right now. And that's terrible as a user experience anyway, but that forces me to say I need something. And as British people, we will eat around the cat in our salad because we don't want to cause a scene. So you're then kind of either forcing someone outside of their comfort zone, forcing them to have to make a reasonable adjustment request, or let them mask what they need to fit into not being comfortable.
It's difficult. There is always going to be a balance between what makes you safer and what makes you safer as a human being and what makes you safer from a security perspective. There's two different things. You know, there's always going to be a conflict between these things, and you know, user experience versus security is always somewhere where you have to decide what the balance is. I mean, it would help with that if you know, some of the accessibility features weren't famous for being used to compromise systems. So sticky keys, the old sticky keys trick where you replace the sticky keys binary. For anyone who doesn't know who's watching this, you replace the sticky keys binary with a command shell, reboot the box, and then before login you can do sticky keys, and that runs a system, and up pops the command shell running a system before you log in. You know, it's famously a sort of local privilege escalation route that people use, and so people disable the ability to do that because people are using it in bad ways. So yeah, it would help if that wasn't a famous route. But the thing with all this, the more it is a terrible quandary. So I you know, from an ethical point of view, I entirely agree with you. People shouldn't be made to beg for accommodations that are reasonable and easy to implement for everyone. People should be able to have that flexibility. From putting my cybersecurity hat on, I can see why those choices are made, because the truth is that all those accessibility features increase the surface area for attack. And you know, if you're looking at cybersecurity, you want to minimize your possible attack surface area to the smallest possible area that you can to keep everybody safe. So yeah, it is a real difficulty. But something that companies have to they have got to work out a way to do this so that it is, you know, easy for people to, you know, just get what they need when they need it.
Yeah. Conscious of time, and you're a very busy lady. So my final question.
You say that as if you're not.
Well, yes, but it is my optimum environment, is being crazy busy and stressed. So Just I'm always aware that I can't, well, I mean, it took me a long time to learn that I can't expect everybody else's optimum environment to be the same as mine.
Let's all tap dance on chaos together.
Yes. So my final question to you is, if you could have one cyber wish granted during Cyber Awareness Month, what would it be?
Ooh. Oh, that's difficult. That's a difficult question. My cyber wish on Cyber Awareness Month. I think, yes, it would have to be that multi-factor authentication was available on everything. That would be my one wish. It was that you could enroll multi-factor authentication on everything you did. Because of all the things that keep, like, my mum, the nans, safe, she can deal with, like, the text message and the code. She can deal with the notification.
Mm,
If it was on everything, I wouldn't get the phone call that says, I think someone's been in my account, or someone's messaging people on Facebook on my behalf, or someone, you know, I wouldn't get those phone calls with the panic and the anxiety and the fear that comes with those phone calls, because it really upsets you when you've got one of your accounts and someone's been in it. You've been violated on a, you know, really personal level, right? That's upsetting.
definitely.
I don't want that for the nans. You know, so of all the things that I could do, one, make it possible for everything, and two, make it easy so the nans can do it.
Easy. Yes. Yes. No, so I'm asking everybody this question, and I said kind of at the end of this series, I'm going to work out what I sprinkle my wish dust on to try and make come true. Not that I have any powers to make anything come true, but I'm going to back one of your wishes, and we'll try really hard to wish out into the world that this comes true. Yeah, security's hard for the average person. We make it so hard, so ridiculously hard. So I love that you broached that. Because I don't know if other people know how challenging it is for the nuns.
It's impenetrable. It's absolutely impenetrable and
Mm,
impossible to contextualize any kind of, like, you know, the first question the nans would have: why would anyone do this to me?
mhm,
What? Yeah, and why would they? Because they're horrible criminals who don't care about you as a person. But
mm,
the why am I a target? Why would anyone want to do this to me? Why would anyone want to, you know, steal my emails? Why would anyone want to pretend to be my bank? Why would they phone up and pretend to be BT and try and sell it? Why would they want to come and fix my? Well, there's a nice, you know, the nice man just wanted to fix my computer. Why? Why would they be
mm.
doing anything nasty doing that? And that
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, you don't understand why you would be targeted, and that whole bewilderment around security and why anyone would do these things to you,
Mm,
it's so confusing for people.
mm,
And all the answers to it are really complicated and really
yeah.
difficult to
Filled,
understand.
filled with jargon, nonsense. So my nan is quite cyber savvy, thankfully, because I'm her favorite person in the world. She also is not internet connected. However, she's not, the scams are still coming thick and fast
Mm,
at her. But what she does is hangs up, calls me, Gemma, this scary man has just called me, or I saw this, and what should I do about it? Even in test and trace days, the contact tracers calling her, she would hang
yeah.
up, call me, and say, I've done, what number is it? Is it 1471 or whatever it is, and this is the number. Is that the right number? Should I speak to them if they call back, and all that sort of stuff. So she is becoming more aware, but she accesses her information about cyber safety from her parish newsletter. So, and that's always, Maureen got scammed. And so don't be like Maureen, if somebody
Yep.
calls you or knocks on your door, but that's a reactive piece of somebody in this community. So we know that this is happening to our residents. And so, be aware of that. Or BBC News, she learns from as well.
Mm.
But I mean, even BBC News, they don't broadcast that in a way that's accessible, that you can say, oh, I know what my action steps are and what I need to be concerned about.
That's the thing. They don't tell you what to do.
No.
They don't give you a good concise list of, okay, how can I stop this happening to me?
Mm.
And it's like, if I didn't know what I knew, I would find it confusing. Looking at it from the outside, put yourself in the shoes of the nans. It's really confusing.
Really,
And
really
you can't.
difficult.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah. And
Also, can I change my wish to make everything really simple to understand in future?
I'm gonna lump it all into one. But I mean, on that part of it, making it really easy to understand, let's just have one voice, right? Because some frameworks say change your password every 90 days, and some say don't do that and have this length. And so what is the advice?
Well, it's terrible. And because those frameworks conflict, if you're trying to do compliance in any big business, you've got to comply with two different frameworks. And one of them says change your password every 90 days, and the other one says you must have a 14-character password.
Yeah.
How on earth do you expect people to change a 14-character password every 90 days and remember it and not fall into choosing really predictable password patterns as a result? Like, those things conflict. My advice, long passwords, don't change them unless you have a reason to believe they're compromised or after a reasonable length of time. That, I believe, is the best way to do it, because otherwise you have to use predictable things. And like I say, different passwords for everything, and you're not going to remember them if they're long enough. So write them down.
Yeah.
For the nans, use a password manager if you can. But for the nans, write them down in a book.
Yes. Yeah, indeed. Well, it's been lovely having you, and thanks so much for your thoughts and feelings on everything. I'll tag you in all the taggy places, and if you want to have a interesting chat with someone very special in the industry, hit up Gemma.
Thanks, Jen. It's nice to talk to you.